Hello Year 4. So this week we're going to continue to develop our knowledge of pop art and to continue to develop our knowledge of the artist Michel Keck. Michel Keck, as we discussed last week, is a pop artist, and she's also an artist that uses collage techniques, as you can see on these two images. And to recap, collage is the process of gluing and assembling various bits of material such as thread and wool and newspaper and magazine cuttings onto a flat surface to create interesting imagery. So this lesson, what we're going to do is we completed our traces last lesson, and this lesson we are going to start adding pop art patterns and pop art colours to our Michel Keck image. So I'm using this image here of this little Chihuahua dog, and as you can see, I have actually started to draw on very lightly some of my patterns, but I've not drawn all of my patterns on because some areas I want to leave available to add my collage, so adding my string or my newspaper or magazine cuttings. So I'm leaving some of the areas blank. So Michel Keck usually has the eyes and the nose of her animals quite realistic. So what I've chosen to do is I've added tone using a pencil to one of the eyes. And that's what I'm going to do with the other eyes and the nose. So I'm going to start. I'll show you how to apply tone. So some of these areas you've got little shapes, and they're representing the highlights. In the middle here are going to be really bright highlights, and on the edge here, so we're going to leave them blank. And then we're going to apply a soft pencil tone to the rest of the area. So I'm leaving those two circles, or ovals I should say, in the middle blank, and there's a bit of a highlight down here, so I'm going to leave that blank as well, leave that little oval, and that's quite light there. So if you've got this Chihuahua, you can follow what I'm doing. If you've got your own image, you'll have to look at the photograph to see where the darker tones are and where the highlights are, and just leave the highlights blank. So up here in this section, I'm going to press down a little bit harder to create a darker tone. I've got quite a sharp pencil because it's a small surface area, and I'm pressing on the side of my pencil too. I'm also going to go a little bit darker around these highlights. So, and probably over here a little bit as well. And then I'm going to make this outer shape a bit darker around the edge, like so. And then over here I'm going to go a bit darker too. So I'm quite pleased with that. And the next thing that I'm going to do is my nose. This is a little bit more straightforward. So I'm going to carry on pressing fairly firm on the side of my pencil, using circular motion, but I'm leaving out the nostrils and the highlights. So I'm leaving them blank for the moment, and I'm just applying my medium tone. So that you don't go outside the lines, you may want to draw your border first. Now I'm happy with that medium tone, and then the next thing I want to do is make the nostrils a bit darker. So I'm going to apply quite a dark tone to them. And then I'm going to go back in and I am going to add slightly darker tone around the highlights so that they really stand out, so they look really bright. And that gives the effect of the nose looking quite shiny, which is what we want. Okay. And then I might even go a little bit darker at the bottom of the nose here, because there'd be a shadow. All the time, even when I'm applying tone, I'm using circular motion. I've just made that at the bottom of the nose a little darker there. I'm going to blend that nostril into the rest of the nose a little there. Okay, so that's the nose and the eyes complete with tone. Right, year 4. So now we're going to continue to apply patterns to our Michel Keck dog. So I'm going to have horizontal stripes in this ear. That's what I've decided. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my stripes are nice and neatly drawn. So I'm going to measure out each of the lines. So I'm going to have each of the lines 0.5 centimetre thick. So I'm going to plot my points now. Okay, so I've got my points plotted there, and then I'm going to put my ruler in place and nice and lightly draw my lines across the page. So I'm just keeping to the inside of the ear here. Then I might add another little point at the bottom here. So I'm not going all the way into the dog's head, I'm just doing it in the ear. And then you can see what I've done over here is I've started to do some checkers in this ear. And in case you fancy doing something like that, they're just a full centimetre in thickness. And they're also a full centimetre this way too. So they're just centimetre squares. And then I've also decided to do some stripes on the dog's coat here, but this time what I've done is I have followed this existing line. So I'm going to press a little bit harder just so that you can see. So I've followed the line round as carefully as I can. I'm doing this freehand, so I'm pressing really lightly. just made a little mistake there. So get my rubber and refine it. Okay, and you can see that I just follow that line again. If you wanted to be very precise, you could measure the first line, and that's about 1/2 centimetre thick. So you could do all these lines as 1/2 centimetre thick. Then I'm going to look at the leg here. I'm just going to move my camera so you can see a little more. So with the leg, I wanted circles in the leg, so I got a pen lid. You can use anything that you've got at home, and I drew a line down the leg very lightly so that all my circles are in line with each other. And then I positioned my pen lid in place and then carefully drew around it. And then I measured the gap, which was about 1/2 centimetre, plotted a point and drew around my next circle. Now my next circle, because I want it in line with this circle up here, goes slightly outside the leg, but that's fine because what we do is we can go back in with a rubber and just rub out where it overlaps. It doesn't matter if half the circle's hidden. And then again, I measured the distance, about 1/2 centimetre, placed my circle on that line, drew around it carefully, and then finally, now this bottom circle here, some of it's going to be hidden behind the feet, the toes and the claws of the little dog, and that's fine because that's what we're trying to do. And then if we go over to this, I've got a stripe on a diagonal. Now I'm going to measure that. It's about 1 centimetre. So I'm going to leave another 1 centimetre gap, plot a point. Just make sure that's correct actually. And I'm just drawing my line there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave another 1 centimetre gap, 1 centimetre gap, and draw my vertical line. So they all should be in line with each other. If you've got a plastic ruler, it's really helpful because you can see through it. So I'm just making sure they are all in line. That one's slightly off. It's not completely parallel. So I just need to make a little adjustment there. This is why we always draw lightly, because even teachers make mistakes. And that one's a little bit thin now. So I'm just going to go back over and refine that. And then finally, I'm going to measure and have my last vertical line parallel with that first line. And that's about 1 centimetre, and that line obviously goes outside of the dog's leg there, so we just need to rub that out. Sometimes these rulers can be a little bit mucky, so you don't get dirty marks all over your paper. Just every now and again get a bit of tissue paper or cloth and give them a wipe, because mine's left some little marks over here. Right. So the final pattern I want to show you is this heart-shaped pattern. Now, I've got a little heart-shaped pencil sharpener, so I was able to draw around that. You might find something similar to that, or any other shape that you'd like to use. And what I did was, so that they are all the same, all on the same line, so they're all very accurate, I drew some grid lines, as you hopefully can see. I'll just zoom in a little bit closer. But you can see here that I've drawn some lines, and then I've positioned my heart shape on that line and drawn around it very carefully. And you can see that some of the heart shape we're able to see, some of it's hidden behind this fur and the eye, but you can see that some of the lines are visible. And then I moved down, and at the bottom of the heart, I drew a straight line really lightly. And then that meant that I could position the heart so that the top of the heart was just below that line. Drew around that. And then I drew another line at the top of that heart, and then positioned my heart in place again and drew around that. But not all of the heart shape will be visible, because it will be hidden behind this pattern that I've drawn over here. So it's making sure that your patterns fit within the shape of the dog. So this bottom of this heart over here, you can see, is also disguised by this fur. So you don't need to include all of that heart shape. Right, so I think I'm going to leave it there for today, because it's quite a lot for you to do in terms of drawing out your patterns very accurately. And then next time, we will start to think about colours, appropriate colours, and we will also be thinking about where you might add some collage. So that's something you could also do today. You could decide if you wanted to have maybe collage on this bit of the fur here, you could just put a little C to remind yourself that you don't want pattern in that area, because that's what you're going to fill in with some collage. And you might decide, right, I'm going to have around one of the ears or around both ears a bit of string. So you could even write yourself a little note for string around ears. So today is a bit of a planning day. Okay. Good luck, and as usual, if you want some feedback, girls and boys, you need to attach your final image to the task. Thank you very much.